I get a lot of them saying, Grootman, explain a little bit more. Does it mean manje ukuthi worship ama-devil because ugqoke iphandle and abanye vele they'll just dismiss you, and other people are disrespectful online. They'll just say, yeah, you are worshipping the devil manje, awusese ingane kaNkulunkulu. What is it that young people need to understand between religion nokuhlaba as thina abantu besintu?
In Christianity, they've already spread the gospel of fear rather than the gospel of good news, the way they talk. The gospel of fear is that when you don't do this, you'll go to hell. When you don't do this, I wouldn't go to the details. The same apply to do our variegated system. As I've explained, that Uktogi's Panla doesn't start with you and me here. It traces its origin from the old time in the dynasties of Egypt, Sumeria. So someone else will say, oh, ZAMALEK say God doesn't exist. So tell us why God doesn't exist. If God doesn't exist, then I know that you cannot prove what doesn't exist, as far as we cannot prove what exists. God, we cannot prove him, we cannot prove that it exists, nor prove that it doesn't exist. Even within the Rastas, they presume that I'm Illuminati, Satan. They call me all with names. Some of them Blue Devil.
Please subscribe. Don't forget, after you subscribe, click the notification bell so you get to know when we are recording brand new videos. And if you want to become a part of the private members, there's almost 100 private members now. Those are the people I communicate with, and we're planning to be having regular meetings in 2025, and we're also planning to have conversations around investments, around doing some incredible things for our communities. So that's why we're building our own private members community. But for you to be a private member, you'll have to pay about 29 Rand or so, maybe 20 Rand, I don't know, just check it out. But thank you. It's about time to learn. I'm excited to be learning today from our scholar. He's back again, a scholar from the University of Life, ZAMALEK GIZA. Ndosheni.
Ndosheni nalocha ninjani.
Siyalocha, siyabonga, thokozani.
Yes, I'm fine, Honorable Spoo. As you say, I'm a scholar of life. I'm from Isigi. Some people mistake Isigi as some religious entity or communion. But Isigi, it's the secret society, or we can call it a sacred organization that has been administrating African affairs and civilization for years. These are the people who had influence in building the pyramid. Some people call them Bonabakulu. They have even other sectors like Agadat. Like now, I represent the Agadat sector as a Sigi Grandmaster. The Agadat, they are the ones who are meant to do what we call public lectures.
What are the Agadat?
Agadat, it's a school that exists here in Africa. I wouldn't say in which mountain, but you can find it in the mountain. It's a higher school. It's long time known. It has hosted conferences in the 11th century, in the 6th century, where we featured a lot of geniuses from Europe and everybody through what we call mental Olympics and magical Olympics.
I wanted to thank you for the incredible education and knowledge that you are sharing on TikTok weekly. And I appreciate your commitment in doing that. I don't know if you do it daily, but I see you very often, you being live there, communicating with the students. Some of us, we are your students. Some of us, we don't comment, but we are there listening and learning, you know?
I know, Mkhulu. Everybody is listening behind the window. But what I do is to spread the message. Remember that everybody doesn't have an access of knowledge that is being spread, awakening. So there's some chatilians, there's some fraudsters, fraudulent people making books, creating organizations and cult. And they're delaying the awakening of majority of some other people because they have their own self. They have to what we call self-determination. They need to have that. But now in the cults and organization, they don't get that kind of space where they can self-determine themselves and try to transform and awakening the way they wanted to awaken.
I know that we spoke, and I wrote down some notes that will focus on the decolonization programs, the benefits and necessity of such programs, the Bantu science, modernized usage of such science, and its developmental achievements, spiritual psychosis, the Bantu astrotheology. But before we get in there, which is all linked, I want us to start here.
Okay. Let's go to
Ngiyaxolisa ukunga-invite for ukuzodla inyama ngiphuma la.
ngivele ngakwata ngoba manje mina ngiyayidla inyama ngizimzima. Thanda inyama, ngithanda ihenesi mara thingabatshela.
Yeah.
Only thing that I will tell you, let's start there. If you're showing me iphandla, there's a ritual being made that has been made in Kerbaterbe, or also known as the Temple of Amun. It's in Sudan. It's known as a divination of a pharaoh, or to venerate a pharaoh, to make a pharaoh a god. In order to make that pharaoh a god, one of the things that they needed there, it's the goat. I just like to give you a glimpse. One of the offering. And that pharaoh, begagcoka is pandla, a bangle. It's called wadiwat, or wahet, in their mistranslated in Egyptian. But it's pandla, sasaz, leso sigcokile ungasiveza.
Zimbili.
Yeah.
Sure.
They used to wear ispandla for divinating the pharaoh.
Spoko namathambo.
Yeah. Which means bebayenza inkosi leyo ibe unkulunkulu by that time.
How can benza inkosi ibe unkulunkulu?
It's a pass-through tradition that has been done in Egypt for long years. Same as the goat. A goat is venerated everywhere, and it's seen as importance. Some other people will say in Christianity, it's venerated even there. They will say the goat, it's the one that saved Abraham from offering his only son, Isaac, when God tested him. So it same applies to the goat that is an image of Omaman or Mamen, whom Moses outcast all the Israelites when they were praying to Mamen, and when he was from the mountain, got the what we call the 10 Commandments. But according to the scroll of the Bible, they say it's not 10 Commandments. It was about 16 Commandments, and then these 16 Commandments, he dropped the 6th one.
And then do you know those other ones that were dropped?
Yes, we can conclude them and analyze them through the 42 confession we get from Ma'at. That is why some other people, they assume the 10 Commandments were the plagiaries of the Ma'at 42 confessions.
So people assume they were plagiarized.
Yes, but they don't know the history behind, because there's a history behind all of that. Hence why I say in the myth of the Jews, they say Moses dropped the 16 commandment, which means the 6th commandment, he dropped them, and he was left with one tablet that only has 10.
And what is that history?
It's apocryphal books, the books that are written in Jewish perspective, the Haggadah, the Maknach, Messiah Bereshit, and Merkava Bereshit.
Okay, maybe we'll get into them a little bit later on a different episode, on another discussion, but I'd like to learn more and understand further. Yeah, ngiqalelana mina ngicela ukubonga kakhulu ifamily yami yonke nabantu abadala nje ebebezile emsebenzini njengoba besenza umsebenzi sihlabile. There's a process that I've been going through. It's been years. The past few years they've been very educational for me, and they've been very challenging for me in my life. What the spiritual world has done in my life has been a journey of learning. It hasn't been easy. I don't think if I was a weak person, I'd still be standing here and speaking to you guys. I've had to go through some...
Can I stop you?
Challenging times. Yes, you can.
And the journey of spirituality is not easy because it's transformance. Some people say be like a worm that goes in the cocoon so that you can transform into a butterfly. But that process is the most painful process. Don't you think the worm gets all the pain? So in order to transform, we get all the pains we need to experience. We need to experience even our own deceitful nature so that we can rectify our deceitful nature. We need to experience our own aggressive nature so that we can rectify our aggressivity, which means by seeing and experiencing everything you have experienced, it's a lesson to be learned. And that lesson to be learned, you need to come out as a master or qualified. So you don't have to sober about it.
Why is it so painful, though?
That's life. Life is painful. Let me give you some little glimpse, because I'm a Zulu. Yeah? In the Zulu, when I ask my grandfather and say, why need umhlaba uyahlaba? You know? And then he's like, uyahlaba umhlaba. Didn't you hear your first pain? Do you remember when the child get robbed? I'm like, huh? And when you fall down, we say, do you owe the world? Angithi uyayazi lento le.
Yeah.
Mawo wasithi ukoloda umhlaba.
Yeah.
Yes. It's because the world has pain. That is why sithi uyahlaba. And through all those pain, you need to transform. The pain of birth, your mother, when they gave you here, come here, they were in the labor pain. So through that pain, you came out. Through the pain of intercourse, it's not nice. Intercourse, some people, they think it's nice. It's painful, both sides. So through the pain, we enjoy the hedonist or ecstasy of sensuality or produce something from that. So through praying, we can always adjure ourselves. Hence why Baba Credo Muta says, we are not perfect human beings, and neither we are imperfect. We're just superhuman being. We want to cultivate that superhuman being who has a lot of errors that must be rectified by our ethics and conduct via the Bantu system.
And the concern from a lot of people who are more religious, or it doesn't matter whatever religion, you can say Christianity or whatever, their concern and the confusion also from young people as far as, say, for example, using Christianity as an example, for a lot of our young people out there who are Christians and who watch the show, the confusion, I get a lot of them saying, Grootmane, explain a little bit more. Does it mean manje ukuthi worship ama devil because ugqoke iphandle and abanye vele they'll just dismiss you, and other people are disrespectful online, they'll just say, yeah, you are worshiping the devil manje, awusese ingane kaNkulunkulu. Sometimes I never explain according to my own understanding. I sometimes just keep quiet, but maybe just ukuthi fahla ngiyazi ukuthi it's a deeper conversation to be had, but just ukudlula kuyona. What is it that young people need to understand between religion nokuhlaba as thina abantu besintu?
Okay, to pass there first, ngizodlula, I will never be specific, but in Russia, they had an experiment. And this experience was done in the 1960s. And they experiment that if you pass news or any form of tablet news to the community, any tale whisper or gossip about fear, and then you do it for 2 months, the whole entire community, there will be people who will be gullible into that. And when they are already gullible, those people will believe whatever lie you are spreading. So it seems apply. This is a psychological analysis in 1968 in Russia. I wouldn't give the detail. But now, this same, it's applied to Christianity. In Christianity, they've already spread the gospel of fear rather than the gospel of good news, the way they talk. The gospel of fear is that when you don't do this, you'll go to hell. When you don't do this, I wouldn't go to the details. The same apply to do our variegated system. As I've explained, that Uktogi's Panla, it doesn't start with you and me here. It traces its origin from the old time, in the dynasties of Egypt, Sumeria. Older than that, it is older forms, older than the Sumerian civilization, that is old systems of people, how they recognize what is divine and give credit and attributes and what we call merits, that you deserve these merits for that. But because we are conditioned, same to the Russian issue I've talked about, that they've made an experience, because people are conditioned to the fear that is produced by that religion called Christianity. And majority of the people will preach now, rather than the good news, the fear part, where that, because you not look like us, or you're not like us, or not dress like us, or you don't reflect what we are, then you are going to hell. So this all is based on the subjugation of believing the lies. That the lies that they believe that was preached about fear, they still believe in today. And it goes to spiritual psychosis, that they inherit the spiritual psychosis. The spiritual psychosis is eromaniac. Eromaniac, it has the grand soul within it. Eromaniac is to assume that you were chosen by a particular person or you are here to help us. It's like the Messiah complexity. And that Messiah complexity, it happens in majority of the people in Christianity. The meantime they accept Jesus Christ, they have a Messiah complexity, assuming that they need to save other people from the mess they are living in, whereas they are not living mess. So if someone says, is evil and worshipping demons, then already themselves, they've already been worshipping demons because they subjugated themselves in the world where they don't respect other people's religion.
But why do they think, though, that if you, in this world, or you are recognizing, your culture, and I'm talking young people now, even those people that might be confused, why do they think then, also, you don't, they assume that you don't believe uNkulunkulu?
Yeah, the main problem is that that's the thing. In the study of Christianity, when the missionaries, the crusaders, the explorers, the crusaders are older than the missionaries who came here in Africa, and the explorers older than the missionaries. These are people who came pre the colonization. But now all of these people experience something about us. Even the missionaries, they experience that we have a form of godliness, but we don't identify God. We don't have a specific God to worship to. That is why they say we are polytheists, because we don't have a God at all. Then they realize that no, they need to subjugate us through their perspective. And you need to remember that their perspective is not the right perspective, that there's a God that created everything. That is not the right perspective.
Are you serious?
Yes, sir. But majority of people, since we are colonized, will like to perceive the idea as the right idea. That is why some other people like Obitek, who talk in Ugandan professor, who say people integrated John Bite, Mkhulu Desmond Tutu, all the other people who have wrote books, and they integrated Siloilo from Bloemfontein. They've integrated ideas from the Western, and they suit them here, which means they intellectually smuggle Hellenic ideas here. That's what Obitek said. So this is our problem. And our problem has caused a lot of confusion in the society, where people, even when they practice their own culture and their own divine expression, they need that European ideology or they need that Arabian ideology to suit their divine expression. So in that way, we are inferior because of colonial program, not because there's some divine one God out there. No, because we are colonially programmed. And with that program, we need to be decolonized. Our decolonization is to recognize that everything is nature. Everything is one with you. These animals that you do for your rituals, they are one with you. And we had a particular communication. So nature, it is one. And there's this connection that we have as the Bantu. And they want us to come out from it. Because we recognize the water. It doesn't mean I worship the water. But if I'm forced to worship the water, because someone is worshiping some divine, expensive, and truthful God, then I will need to worship the water, because the water can cleanse me, it can wash me, it can do a lot of things that I basically need now. It can feed me, it can nourish me, nourish my nutritions. But the God that is invisible cannot do that. So if I have to worship nature, I can do that. If I have to worship my ancestors, because I carry their anima, I carry their DNA, this is something that is there. That is why we recognize nature, and God was not there. But Christianity has disturbed that kind of thinking, hence why we haven't developed anything in Africa, because we depend on Christian ideology.
Double click, continue.
Oh, how can I
go in further?
Go,
other people also go deep.
I'm learning. You know why I like to pause a bit in some other thing. so that I don't offend others.
Yes.
Because already there's people who assume, who constitute themselves as a superior religion. They have the superior complexity that causes eromania and grandiosity. That grandiosity is that they are superior and God exists, where else it doesn't exist. So someone else will say, oh, Zamalek say God doesn't exist. So tell us why God doesn't exist. If God doesn't exist, then I know that you cannot prove what doesn't exist as far as we cannot prove what exists. God, we cannot prove him, we cannot prove that it exists, nor prove that it doesn't exist. This is something that happened in one of theological disagreement. I think it was 2001, where they have a disagreement that no one can prove either God exists or either God doesn't exist, which means it's just the idea of an unknown. That is why in psychology that they say through the fear of the unknown, everybody has subjugated themselves to this God. It's not that he exists. And they've attributed miracles that happen through their natural organic movement and chemistry, like placebo effect, like adrenaline rush, like on all forms of what triggered them to react that time and to have that spontaneous, what they call miraculous events. It's because there's chemistry that we can explain, but those chemistry, we cannot deem them God. Unless they deem this chemistry as God, then we can say God exists.
I did ask you this question, I think on our very first interview. We did that, I think, 2 years ago or 3 years ago. I don't remember. The channel was still small. The channel has doubled, if not tripled in numbers, and I'm going to ask you the same question again. Then what is a God? What is God? Who is God? What is that idea that you say we call God if you're saying God doesn't exist?
Regardless of telling you my own personal views, because other people will be more confused, let's get it to the public mainstream view. God has been attributed to the divine animator of everything, the great progenitor of everything, the master governor of everything, which means our thoughts, our movement, our frequencies, everything that is around us. And then if God is like that, then it doesn't belong to the Islam. It doesn't belong to the Christians. It doesn't belong to the Judaists. It doesn't belong to the Zoroastrians. It doesn't belong to the Brahma. It doesn't belong to the Buddhist and the Hinduist, etc., etc., all religion. But he belongs to all mankind because he's everywhere. So all mankind experience the phenomenon of God, which means man, by existing, they are part of God. You yourself, you are God. When we say God is omnipotent, omnipresent, omnisufficient, and omnibenevolent.
And what is the correct word then that we should be using?
I think I'm not from Europe, so I wouldn't say what we should be using. Me in Africa, I know that I need to respect you, Sbu. I need to have ethical respect for you. And I need to show decency in everything. And I don't have to question you with your own perception of life. There's no Zulu who has ever fight a Sutu for not being a Sutu, or a Sutu fighting a Zulu for not being a Zulu. So all that are just conventional system, because people need a backup of people, or they need a group of people. It's like when we need more listeners for the show, we'll have ways to market the show, isn't it? Sell it. This advert that we're going to sell, it's going to be everywhere. It's going to have ways to communicate with everybody. It doesn't mean we agree with those ideas, but it means that we want everybody to lobby the show. We want everybody to listen to the show. So it's the same as God. God doesn't exist. Everybody wants you to believe in that Christian idea. That is why people are crazy. And they assume they are chosen by God. And it's a questionable idea to assume that you are chosen by God. Out of all this galaxy is so big. And if God created it, or she created it, how can this same God has an ability just to choose one people insect? Because we are just the people insects when we have to quantify the universe and our size.
It's very interesting that you're saying he's everywhere, including outside of Earth, in the entire galaxy.
Yes.
And even on all the other planets.
Beyond our realm of that dimension and the calculation of the things that we have in our length, breadth, and height, that dimensional world.
And let's talk about dimensions.
Mkhuluma sesakhuluma ngama-dimension.
Platform besesencane
Usofuna ukuphuma.
mhlambe more than half of the people ababukele basha, they did not watch that old episode or the old episodes. That's why amanye ama-question ngiwaphinda.
You see, when we talk about that, you remember I told you the first dimension is like a line, a straight line. And then the second dimension will be having a square without having other forms of corners, like a cube. But it's a square, but it's not a cube. And the third dimension, it's a cube.
Like what people would call 3D.
Yeah, 3D, because it's going to give us different forms. It's going to give us the length, the breadth, and the height. That is why we call it the third dimension. And then there's realms. Realms are different. We can calculate them through the string theory when we use Western science. In Africa, we use a string theory that is so advanced. But Jonas Kepler...
Before Kobega, what is a string theory?
A string theory, this is something I was about to explain.
Oh, okay.
Jonas Kepler introduced a new form of calculating the stars and viewing them, the azimuth position of stars. That these stars, they're not moving the way they used to perceive them. That is the flat earth, or what we call geocentric. So you view it as heliocentric. And heliocentric is that the sun is the center. But since the sun is the center, the planets evolve or orbit around the sun through the string theory. And through the string theory, that is where they could understand the movement of the stars and the movement and the calculation of everything. That's the discovery of the number system we have now. Even it's still used today to advance computer science in calculating the stars and some phenomenons in life that they could not understand. So in string theory, in our simple way, these same dimensions, in the first dimension, while it's the straight line, there's other dimensions that are making vertical lines, horizontal lines, or triangular lines, and they make their own, or tried lines. They make their own, which means you are not even aware of, but you can only see the straight line. In the second dimension, you can only see the formation of the square, that the straight line tried to form a square. And then in the third dimension, you can see the cube, that the formation of the cube. But now all that can be in the string theory can tell us that there's other forms of dimension, which means this dimension is just sharing component part of existence with other dimensions that we cannot access through our own ability and our limitation. Until we have some advancements, we can access it. It's the same way as someone coming from a distance, and you can sense their presence. It's them living in the string theory form. And then when you can see their form, that is where they appear. That is string theory. Things that you cannot see, but they are in your dimension or in your realm. But you cannot see them. And when you see them, that is where they become 100% in your realm. It same applies when we do ceremonies for our ancestry. Our ancestry, they are not in our... Someone will say, they are dead. They don't exist. The body is dead. Essence of their existence still exists. In English, they call it anima. In Sizulu, they call it isithunzi. KaSisuthu kisiriti. And there's other ways. So the same shadow or siriti. That is why they say isithunzi sakabani sisele la. Because your shadow or your existence, your anima is left amongst us. So when we cleanse or purify, we purify that anima. And when we purify that same anima, we are about to raise the anima or utilize it. Because you can take someone's anima. Bese site unezenzo, ufuze, which means we don't say you like them physically or image-wise, but you have their anima. You perceive things and their energy. No matter you're not perceiving, they may be soccer players. You come here, you become a chess player, or you become a lawyer, something that is far different than a soccer player. But you perceive things and you have the enthusiasm as same as that person because you share the same anima. So the anima is something that can be left. That is why we say, I sense someone is here. I sense his presence while we are talking. But whereas that person is not around, that is their anima. So that's where we can calculate a string theory. But the calculation of string theory in Europe, it hasn't reached the level of the Bantu, where you know it yourself, they can travel even nangomnyango ngembobo yomnyango ngifuna ukuyisho out ngesilungu labantu bandlula ngembobo yomnyango ekumeni bekumele basele eWashington baletha ama 411 sikwazi ukuthi siya phambili kanjani.
So how do you explain them coming through dreams, though?
It's one of the forms of string theory, influencing other realms. It's called psychosis. That is why I say spiritual psychosis. When I talk about spiritual psychosis, is that some other people can be influenced in dreams, but they don't understand those dreams because they have their own language. Dreams have their own language. So when your ancestors come through dreams, it's not only your ancestor, but it's the language. It's like a communication. It's like someone sending you a letter. So the way they send you a letter, you'll see their image. But since you cannot read the symbols that are there as a formal letter, you'll need an interpreter of those symbols. So they come through dreams because that's the access they have. And that's another access even what is beyond you has. Because when they can come literally in your third dimension, you can faint. It can cause a lot of malfunction. That's where people get to be malfunction. And we found them under psychologists being questioned. And when they are questioned, some other people don't even understand that who's this imaginary friend that they are talking with.
Still on dreams, is there a wrong or right way of interpreting dreams?
There's a wrong way and the right way. And there's a wrong way to interpret English because you don't understand it. And there's a right way because you understand it and know it. There's a wrong way to interpret Egyptian language, hieroglyphics, or what they call metur neter, and there's a right way. So even dreams are the same way. When someone doesn't know the language, they'll make false assumptions about the language, or else they mean something else. I had a case, because it's public now, I wouldn't say that person may be listening, but now I had a case. In that case, that person had a problem. Subject number one, I'll say subject number one. Subject number one had a problem, had dreams. That dream was recurring. And she has gone to different interpreters of dreams. And they told her, some of them, they say she needs to initiate. She'd believe that. Some of them, they say, do you have powers? And those dreams concerning water and some other things. I wouldn't say to details. But now, when she had that dream, I had to help her. My help was based on interpreting the dream the way it is. Because she says, oh, since you interpreted, because she came for just a glimpse of a dream, not that same dream. She said, Damon, since you interpret this dream of mine accurately, and you were talking about my life and things that already happened to me, and some of the things I know it's my secret. So can you help me with the dream that has been recurring? And I have this dream ever since in this age and this time. I'm like, oh, tell me your dream. And then when she tells me her dream, I tell her the story of the same event that happened. And she was so scared. Why you know this story? Are you following me? Are you part of the CIA or something? Do you have any access to my life? Are you surveying me? And I started to tell her that no, it's not that I'm surveying you or anything. Your dream had this kind of story. And I had to tell you the way it is. Because that's what it was saying. What you need to heal is this and that. The story was so sad, but she did heal. Hope you are listening and you'll be grateful. You just have to tell people ZAMALEK help you.
You're talking about, I'm going to reverse a little bit to what you were talking about a few minutes ago. The spirits, Uguti. The flesh dies here on earth, but the spirit can still be around. Is that the reason why when somebody has died somewhere in an accident, they would say, if Abagubo, they don't come and bazumlanda, that spirit will still be lingering, where other people would call it ispoki, and other people would say, but you would need something like some sort of a plant or a tree. Other people would call it like umlahlankosi.
Okay. With umlahlankosi suke solanda isithunzi. Because it's a animal that is left. Do you remember I tell you isithunzi animal? It's an English word where we say you are made part form of the animal. Where the mammal come from, the ma. So the animal, it's because of the ma miorta or matas, matter. But this matter is espario matter. That's why it's anima. Ani meaning it's animated, like animations, they're cartoon. But it can still influence our world. And it's part of ma, the matter, in Latin. Because they were not talking about ma according to our African perspective. But they were talking about it based on the matter, that ma contain what is material, matter. And ani is for the animation, something that animates itself and in existence. So anima means something that is in existence, but we cannot touch it. We cannot see it with our naked eye. Hence why we can feel it. We can sense it. That, someone is coming behind through our etheric body. So this same animal, we go and fetch it and rectify it and through our own rituals and systems so that it may do good things for us.
Why specifically with umlahlankosi? And what is umlahlankosi?
Manje sofuna ngithwasisa abantu in public.
I wish I ungangeni too deep.
But I'll use Christian symbiology so that I wouldn't divulge what my people talk about. When Solomon died, they say there's a tree that appears there, Uyumlahlankosi. Some in the Rasta community, they say it's weed, but it's not weed. Uyumlahlankosi that appear in the grave of Solomon to represent as wisdom. And it's still used there as the same way to subjugate spirits, control spirits, and that is why we use it for that, because it can subjugate, control, and blah, blah.
What are other uses of umlahlankosi?
A lot. Angeke ngikutshele sibu.
No,
I can teach, but there's some other things that I'm meant not to teach in the public.
Okay.
I'm giving someone else access over me while he's listening, or they are listening, she's listening. They're having a crew there, and they're ready for me to say something wrong so that they can subjugate me to the laws. Yeah.
Would you say that's what happened to Ukoko?
They don't give me my tax money though. But they still want to subjugate me.
Would you say is that what happened to Ukoko Credo Motor? May so rest in peace. Njoba babeza, bam recorda, bam lalela. Would you say some information bam kulumisa izinto ukuthi bona babezidinga ne-information abebafuna ukuyazi from thina ngathi?
Yeah, kunezinto eziningi. That is why other people in diaspora, they assume Baba Credo Motor sold out. There's even people here. They say he gave knowledge to the European than black people. And they forget that black people didn't have access. And what was told in the public for them is that, Baba Credo Motor is a witch, Baba Credo Motor is bad, Baba Credo Motor is a spy. These are gossip and rumors that were famous. Or either he's a bad person or a spy. And what created that? It created an advantage for the colonists. I'll just call them like that. It created a privilege and advantage for them because they could access him and then deceive him and rob him. But what he told them was not accurate information. It was in a cipher where they couldn't even understand the cipher because they believe in God. Thank you.
When you watch a lot of things that are happening in the world or the information that is out there, especially from people like about David Icke, the mainstream media would characterize them as conspiracy theorists. Is there information that you sometimes watch and observe and be like, that comes from Ubaba?
Yeah, there's things I can see that come from Ubaba a lot. Hollywood, a lot of stuff. even the plans of the CIA, even the launching of the rocket, the way the spaceship launched their rockets, you can get it in Zulu Shaman. He explains those details in Zulu Shaman on how the rocket launches and how our people use mythology to explain that. But in all stories, he tried to refer to the old world, that the old world was so advanced like this world. So you can get it everywhere. I've seen majority of people, even constructional movies, just normal movie or normal achievement of a country. I can see Mkulu's influence. And it's same as like they plagiarize what he did, and we are left here to neglect him, to question him, to assume about him. Whereas it has transformed a lot in the world of the Europeans and the Arabians and the Indians and the Chinese.
Because when he was alive, especially his last decade or two, actually I'd say maybe pretty much half of his life, he was alienated. He was, as you are saying, they called him names. Some people at some point or so, they burnt his house.
Yes, sir.
Would you say this journey is lonely?
Yeah, as he says, when he was interviewed by we'll say governmental owners of the place in Zaloyelanga,
yeah,
he says they would like to ban and criticize the people who are off to teach and bring the light to the people, meaning enlightening the minds of the people. They will be criticized, scorned, reduced, or gossiped. I've seen it. I'm not making myself better, but I've seen it with me. I reflect to him because he's a leader, he's my master. So when I see him and I see others, I can see the same thing that used to happen to him. When he got access to these people who help him to write Indaba My Children, I wouldn't explain their names. But when he got access to them and he got that space, he was called by other black people like us. He was called their student, like, this is my student, and they've never taught Baba Credo Moto. Same applies to me. There's people who go all around saying I'm their student, and I've never been their student. They were not even there when I got initiated. I met them after when I got initiated. And I have witnesses for that. I have proper proof. The person onglande epehlweni, umamam, you should have met them there. Ubabam before Ashon, you should have met them there. My brothers should have met them there. But they were not there. So how can they say they taught me? It's the same thing that is done to Baba Credo Moto, where people, when they feel like what you know, they don't know it, and they want a claim of it, and you are not giving them anything at all. So they'll try by all means to claim to be masters, and they are not masters at all.
Would you say that you are a student
To who?
of Baba Credo Moto?
Yeah, I'm a student to Baba Credo Moto. No matter I've never sit with him for long, but I've sit with his grandchild, I meant to say. I've spent time, we were young, and we used to listen to his stuff. It doesn't mean his stuff didn't make sense to us. It makes sense with best imitate. Mina bengu Cisco, i-autiamo umzwakhe bebashaya Manhattans. Ukhono usasele uSigansonso noNkosi Mphile uMadumbeni. We're all there, part of the crew. Nabo mfanisikile abashaya amadrum ama-gumboots manje. Big up you guys. Yeah.
So you didn't go to any university or formal education. So the knowledge that you have is knowledge that you initiated outside of formal education.
Yes, I've never been to any university or any school. Me ngiphelele sibiza standard 6 man ukhula sonke.
Yeah, they call it grade 8.
Yeah. Ngibiza ngiphelele standard 6.
So you don't have matric at all.
Yeah.
But you've got all this knowledge.
Inspiration yam that time azbe kuban. That's a funny part. uSylvester.
uSylvester Stallone or uSylvester Lobegaplo Carlton.
Angizongitshela.
Angitsheli lokho.
Angitsheli lokho.
Bomkavu Sylvester intwana.
Ah,
Serious.
Iposa yethu. Nakhohle
Awutsheli
indaba
lokho.
besiduma indaba ngithi don't forget when we were young everything will be everywhere quickly and I was so young. So when I catch news quickly, I would like to react like those guys. So yeah, they were just the inspiration.
Coco Credo Muta says African knowledge has always been passed down from generation to generation orally.
Yes.
And what I like about what he's done, he's written books. And you've read all of his books.
Yeah, I've read a lot of books, Kababa Kredumute. Some of them is with other people who are helping him. But what I have done me is to observe what my grandfather told me and observe what I got under initiation. And passing under initiation, I was taught things that I were not familiar in the public. I remember when I came back from initiation, where I live, they assume I was crazy. Because I used to stand in a stone and then rain will rain on me. And I will stand and lightning will strike. I'll just stand and have what we call magical praknika as the symbol that I do. And then I will stand there for a period of hours.
What is magical praknika? I've seen some.
Oh, this is magical praktika.
What is it?
It means let it be done.
And why this? Why this?
It gives you focus. Your hands, the mantra of your hands when they're like this, and shaping this system. Your three fingers, these three fingers. It's exchanging energy. And then this is to contain this energy. And this is to let it out when it's like this. But when it's like this, it's contained inside you. So wherever it gives you focus. It's like when you want to focus, you need to do this symbol. If you want to put it simple, you found yourself inside the parliament and you are sitting with your peers there, you need to have that symbol. Even in the jury of peers, having that symbol will respect you. Because it's a symbol of focus and understanding.
You hear a lot of people nowadays associate certain signals, not gang signals, but certain signals with what people would call the Illuminati.
Like this symbol of mine, I've been doing it ever, even within the Rastas. I used to sit with the Rastas a lot, smoke with them. So even within the Rastas, they presume that I'm Illuminati, Satan. They call me all with names. Some of them Blue Devil. I've come out to be the most oldest serpent that can ever be within that space. But that symbol never meant what they assume. It meant something else.
What does it mean?
It means the creator.
And then why do they use the same symbol, all those people that they refer to as the Illuminati, the illuminated?
Let's remember, organization create their own stuff. And through the plagiarizing of African artifacts and the way we found them in museum, so they would like to use those symbols. I wouldn't name the boys club, or I mean to say the men's club, but the men's club use it, even them. Some people know what is the men's club, but I wouldn't want to name it. So they use our symbols because they control these museums, they own them, where there's our artifacts.
So not only the symbols, so there's a lot of other things. Are you saying there's a lot of other things, spiritual things, ezetu, that they're using?
Yeah.
Teachings,
yes.
Spiritual knowledge,
yes.
that they practice. They practice as if it's
not
their
a,
own.
Yeah, it's not a secret knowledge to us. It's just public. It's common knowledge, but they use it as their secret knowledge. That is why it's forbidden to do a lot of things of Africa. People like now, we're talking about African spirituality. We're calling it that, our Bantu customarily existence and form of understanding what is divine. They call it African spirituality, isn't it? But they are the ones who are stopping African spirituality. They're the ones who want to put chains in African spirituality and deem it as some sort of a new religion that comes from Baphomet or devil.
So Baphomet means devil.
For them, the Christians.
And you're talking about the Christians.
Yeah, the Christians and the government. Let's remember, Christianity controls the government. The government, its policies and laws come under Christianity. Colonization was divinely controlled by a priest. Our court and our law, they recognize the Bible as a center of the moral law that can save mankind. Before we go to the statues, Roman statues, that already recognize the ethlicians of the Bible as the foundational law.
I wanted to ask about that signal that they use when you mentioned Baphomet. That signal that looks like a goat, but it's also a male and a female at the same time. And it stands like this. And
Yeah,
it's got
this is the symbol of it in hand gesture and the mudra. And there they are trying to explain the multiformity of men. But someone else, because they never understood, as I've said, Christianized. When they reach in Babylonia, they interpret those images. It's vulgar. It's the same thing I teach on TikTok, that the vulgar language was never understood. And when they view it, they try to deem it either as fallen angels, as demons, and all those things. But it had symbology and meaning into it. And those meaning, we could understand it ourselves because we are daily living that symbol or meaning or moral ethic or way to divinely inspire yourself or abstract creative thinking in your mind and intelligence. Yeah.
It's so beautiful, man, to learn. But it does get a bit confusing sometimes. If you were to refer any new student, and interested to know further, go down deeper, this rabbit hole, what books would you refer them to?
I've told you how many times.
As I say, the platform is small.
Ah,
There's a lot of
how
new
many times
audiences.
a problem? I'm gonna give that person go and read that book, and they will blame me because they've read. Like now, I've talked about Chatilian who are creating book out of African spirituality, and they are not saying the accurate knowledge. Some of them plagiarize what I say on TikTok. Yeah, so they are not creating a necessary curriculum. But to help someone, I'll tell them that they must go for Baba Credo Mota. That's my center. Baba Credo Mota has created basics for us in all his books. And some of them need to go to Giango, Opengo, or go to Opengo Bua Filafela, Opengo Filafela.
Opengo Filafela.
Yes. Go to Obitech, Nyange from Uganda. Joke is not God. Go to he wrote an essay. This is not a book, but some other people can make a book about Obitech. He wrote an essay that joke is not God in Uganda. It's a famous essay. So I'll prefer them going to read those kind of things and going to varsity and research about the history of the Bantu, colonial history, how they were colonized, and it's going to help them a lot in understanding what I'm talking about.
Someone, the books that is just mentioned or the people that is just mentioned, because if he says Baba Credo Mota, then you'll find the books under Baba Credo Mota when you do your research. Or you can use Google or you can use DuckDuckGo. Some of the people that is just mentioned, can one of you guys please just write them down on the comment section, and me and the team will pin those books at the top of the comment section so that people can be able to go research those people so they can get that knowledge. I like the way you're explaining it. You're not specifically going to the books, but you're saying they must study certain
those
people.
characters. Like some people who want to know about the European stuff that I'm talking about, that is not in the public, you go and study John Dee, Professor Faust. You go and study about Carl German, the great magician in Europe, and then you'll understand which world I'm from.
Mkhuluntsingisa speaks about is it Khante Diop?
Or Tiakhante Diop, he was in Dagara University there in Agara, Sierra Leone, and then he's French, and he worked with the French Institute, and in a debate, there was a crusade in the French Institute, and that crusade was based on do these artifacts in Egypt belong to Africans? Cheikha Diop came with his thesis, and his hypothesis could surpass all these professors. But his hypothesis now it is not accurate. It's the way. That is why, if I can lead you there, you'll find that check out your job. He recognize the admission. For people who listen to me, they know the admission that I'm talking about in the north that is already deserialized Africa. It doesn't mean I'm race, but I'm all about the history. So Chaka Diop never even recognized that history. He became biased to the Arab side of invasion.
He also speaks about George G. James.
Yes, George G. James is one of the great, what do you call, mythological researcher in America. We have done a lot. He has done hard. And some of his book, that's where he expressed that the Hamatic, a Jewish, all that is lie. Old people used to worship the great mother goddess. So George G. James, I'll presume other people go and look for his book. But they were banned. I don't know in this time if they're still banned, but his book 50 years ago, 30 years ago, it was banned.
And then I find some information that I used to find years ago online. Nowadays, when I try and search for that information, I don't find it anymore.
Yeah, because it doesn't suit the narrative of this nowadays. That is why people are getting awakened, but the system is making sure that it keeps them asleep.
And how does it do so? Does it use what they think as we were saying earlier, does it use what they think they are learning and discovering, but twist it?
Yes.
And change the narrative to suit them, right?
That's the right way.
So that it seems like it's legit. But
yeah, it seems like they are awakening, but they are not awakening. Yeah, they're already going to the different hole of the rabbit. They found some raccoon hole that will take them out to the lions where they are slaughtered and eaten.
I'm glad that you started teaching. And for people who are new and who are not your students on TikTok, how often do you go live? How often do you teach? When can they find you?
If they want to find me, they can go to TikTok and conversate with me. I've put a link for people who want to speak with me personally and privately, and I can consult them. They can consult into me and into different things. Consult about their own personal life. Consult about how we can work in the program. Consult about if you want stories, the legends I carry, and you want to make them a movie thing. You have your movie product and you found. Consult to me, and then we have an agreement there. So I do have a link for everything that they can talk about. Either they want me to come to their school, or either they want me to come to their institution, or any form. I have a link for that, and I'm confidential about everything. That is why I create a link.
Yeah, but I think you do charge them.
Yes, I
do.
Because
people have to pay. You can't share all of this info.
I do charge. I'm
Yes.
I'm
glad.
I want my woman to be happy, all of them. How?
I'm glad at least go to your charger, because last time you can't be sharing such incredible knowledge without having to make a living out of it. You should charge.
I do make a living, Kulisbu, but it's just other people didn't recognize me, as I've told you, and I'm grateful you gave me a platform where people can even recognize me and participate and help in this program, because it's not only my program, it's theirs.
I'm glad that we're linking again. Bebangithethisa the whole year, but yeah. Subuda kantini ngawo, like unyaka sewuzoyophela, umkhulu ZAMALEK GIZA has not come this entire year.
What I will say is, we need to accept what the universe wants. And we need to accept ukuthi abantu abadala bafunani. If it takes us 2 months, let it be 2 months. Let it be 3 months. We don't care. So long people will get a chance to learn some other day. And those ones who already listen will follow up through the tune of going to TikTok, to the link, to Instagram, the places and the platform where they can access me.
Why was your Instagram ZAMALEK666? Because some people will get scared. It was. There's new audiences.
I tried by all means to add names there. I add ZAMALEK GIZA, But now this Zamalek had another team. There's a team called Zamalek in Egypt.
It is clear.
Yeah. My name by default is like that. ZAMALEK. ZAMALEK apparently. And by default, my name, when you translate it, it's Zamalek. Because I wouldn't go to the detail of my family, but we know Arabic. So it's Zamalek and Zamalekwa in traditional Bantu language. So when I name the name, when my grandmother named me that name, she was pinpointing the same team where that team lives. And this became a tradition where even in my house, they call me Zamalekwa Kapia. Zamalekwa is what Pia fought for. And then his nephew Shabaka came and fought for and Turak. It was 735 BC in Egypt. That's how I got the name. And that's how that place is called Zamalek. But you can trace that name older than that. And this is the name I have. But when I tried to register there, I found that these guys, they already exist. And they already registered their name. But because I know it traditionally, I didn't know it internationally.
Yeah.
I had to study about it internationally. And when I register, I said, put 671. And my young brother put 671. That was my young student by that time. His name is Ri. And he tried to all means to put other numbers. He put other numbers, a lot of stuff. And I told him, like, let's put 666 into an I am. Maybe izoyenza kalobhek, izohlala straight. And yeah.
I wanted us to get into these topics, but I'm glad we had to catch up on whatever we had to speak about, because it opens up for the next episode when you do visit me again. Because we didn't get into this one. We did say when the program started we were going to focus on the decolonization program. So the next episode, that's what we will be speaking about. I'm glad we've caught up. This was just the hello, Gunjani. Vela bakubona usesekhona babingelele type of an episode.
Akunankinga mkhulu. Nami yazi ngikubiza mkhulu, and I don't want a title me. I know I've been a grandmaster ngimncane, but I don't want a title. I don't want to be superior. Ekhaya kithi bebangibiza idlozi eliphilayo abantu abadala. Laba abancane bayalwa manje, you know how people fight for authority. But they used to call me idlozi eliphilayo laba abadala abantu. Even their parents, some of them abangilisay. Yabo.
But why? Why bakubiza idlozi eliphilayo?
Abangitshela is the secret nabo laba abanye abazi. The meantime we continue, don't worry. Ngizobatshela nabo public ngoba bamamele nabo. Yabo.
And why were they calling you the grandmaster?
Grandmaster is because I have initiated other people. This initiate of mine, I got them 2001 after I got initiated. I was sitting with the Rastas and they became famous. I wouldn't express their names.
Ladies and gents, Zamalek GIZA. See you on the next episode. Thokoza mkhulu.
Thokoza mkhulu. Let us rise and grow. And remember to support us as black people. Sigi, Notongo Wampela.
Ndoshen.
Ndoshe.